So in this next round of videos or word problems, the verbiage isn't a lot. There's very few words, but there's actually a lot going on here. And what we're going to be able to do here is practice our setup, our sub, and our solve phases. Because there's no equations, there's no formulas given. But what's going to, I don't want to say make this problem easy, but what's going to help us is all we have to do is literally translate. And once we get the translation, we'll have what we have. So let's get to work. So the setup phase. In this first problem, it says twice a number is 8 less than its square. Find all such numbers. All right, so right here is our unknown, right? So x equals the number. And like I told you guys before, if you tell me that, you've just earned what I call an easy point. Right? So how many equations do we need to finish our setup? We just need one, because there's only one unknown. And in this case, all we need to do is translate. If you'll notice the word is right there, that's a really important guy, right? Because is in mathematics means equality. So we got twice a number, so that means 2 times x is equals 8 less than its square. Well, it being possessive means we're referring back to the number that we have, and if we square it, that's x squared. And to be 8 less than that square means that we're subtracting 8. And there's your setup. Right? So I've defined my unknown, that was 1. And by just translating a sentence, I've created an equation. So one unknown, one equation, it's quadratic, we're ready to solve. Right? And so how do we solve a quadratic? Well, we usually like to factor and use the ZFP. So in this case, we'll move some things around. So 0 equals x squared, put it in descending order. Right? So we're literally subtracting 2x from both sides. Right? And then, so we have a polynomial here, so 0. If we factor that, I believe using some guess and check, that's x minus 4 and x plus 2, right? First times first is first. Last times last is last, yeah, outer and inner. So the zero factor property says that x minus 4 could be 0, or x plus 2 could be 0. So x equals 4 is one of our numbers, and x equals negative 2 is another one of our numbers. In this case, there's no units. We're just talking about some random number. And if you want to check it, right, 2 times 4 is 8. And 4 squared minus 8 is also 8. So there's a number that double it is 8 less than its square. Same thing with negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus 8 is also negative 4. So again, another number where we take double it, we twice it, and it's equal to 8 less than its square. So there's our first, I guess, official word problem. And hopefully you saw, I think the only thing we really didn't need here was the substitution phase. That wasn't really needed because we already had something to solve. So we set it up, we translated, had something to solve, we did it, and we have our answer. So in the next problem, the product of 2 consecutive odd numbers is 63. Find the integers. So there's that consecutive odd guy again. So I'm going to define my variables, but since they're talking about 2 of them and they're consecutive, then I know that x would be the first odd, and like I shared with you in the very first video on this, that means that x plus 2 would be the second odd. So what I just did there is I did the labeling of my unknowns. Right? There's 2 numbers and they're consecutive odd, and again, remember that idea is if 11's one odd, to get to the next one, right, I'm going to add 2 to it. So that's what I'm basically saying here. If x is my first odd number, x plus 2 represents the second one. All right, so I just kind of translated that sentence. So how many equations do we need? Well, there's really only one variable, right? I'm just, the x is, once I have x, I've got them both. So one variable means all I need is one equation. And then again, this all we have to do is translate, because there's the word is. Right? We're saying the product, well, this means multiplication of 2 consecutive odd numbers. So I'm going to take the first number and I'm going to multiply it to the second number, right? The product of the 2 numbers is equal to 63. And there's my equation, all right? So we didn't really have to do a sub, right? All I had to do is translate, and I have an equation that I need to solve. So we're done with the setup phase. We don't need to do a substitution. We just need to solve. If we distribute here, we get x squared plus 2x equals 63. We can see this is a classic quadratic. So again, we are going to factor and use the zero factor property. So subtracting 63 from both sides, right, we get x squared plus 2x minus 63 is equal to 0. And then doing some guessing and checking here. What's going to work? I know x times x, and I think plus 9 and minus 7, right? Because negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. 9x and a 7x gives us the 2x. So there's my guys. And so that means x minus 7 is 0, or x plus 9 is 0. So x equals 7 is one of my guys, and x equals negative 9 is one of my guys. So we had to find the integers that do this, and we actually have two, right? One of them is 7 and 9 is one combination, because remember there's two consecutive odd numbers, and then negative 9, remember we're going to add 2 to that, negative 7 would be the other. And so you'll notice that they're consecutive odd integers, right? If we were on the number line, here would be, let me make sure you guys are seeing that. Notice I'm just off screen, right? So we're negative 9, and there's negative 8 between them and negative 7. So the next consecutive odd integer, and that's probably a little bit clearer to see on this side, right? There's a 0 somewhere, right? 1, 2 over. So two numbers that are consecutively odd, right? Yes, negative numbers can be odd numbers, and if we multiply them together, I get 63. All right, so that's that. So that's our next round of word problems to do in this section. Again, we're kind of seeing this flow, but the one thing that we really don't have to do is the substitution, because as I translate the sentence they gave me, the sentence translation coupled with my labeling of my unknowns pretty much sets up the equation we need to solve. All right, so they will get more difficult, but that's hopefully off to a good start. And you guys are kind of seeing that setups, sub, and solve situation going on, and how you can start earning some, dare I say, easy points, all right, by just labeling unknowns, setting up an equation, in this case translating, and solving, right? Lots of little points to earn partial credit wise, even if you fumble and bumble on the final answer somewhere. Give me an opportunity to give you some partial credit. Let me shut this one down, and we'll do some harder problems coming soon. See you in some videos.